Hello, my lovers. It's MJ from Ultra Love TV. Really happy to be here with you guys. I'm broadcasting live, so thank you guys for your comments, letting me know that you're here or engaging with the conversation. For quite a few years, probably between like 2017 and quite heavily until probably early 2020, I share live. Like this, and to engage in conversation about what I consider a global paradigm shift. Bearing in mind, early on in my life, like 20 years ago, I had these spontaneous spiritual awakenings. I was at the University of British Columbia, and I'd had, whilst I was studying, I had these sort of revelation that there was a paradigm shift on the planet, and if there were not going to be a paradigm shift, it would just be like, what's the point of this destruction and malaise, right? So to share with you guys just a little bit of my own journey, I'm somebody like just this broad sweeping or broad strokes, I guess, of my personal existence, like in this body. I'm a child of divorce, and I from a relatively privileged background, and yet in our kind of white privilege culture, I'm not as privileged as some, but I grew up with a roof over my head, food on my table, and a lot of the luxuries that people that live in poverty just don't have access to, and just also like that was part of, after my early awakenings at university, that was part of why I consciously chose to leave academia, is that I learned that like 2% of the world's population even has access to university, and the information that I was learning and the aspect of critical thinking, I was pissed. 20 years ago, I was pissed at the institution. I was pissed at the world. I was like, why have you denied this information to me? This would have been useful when I was 12 and starting to cut my wrists. Like, so like, so those were the early awakenings. And when I speak of awakening, I gotta say, like, I believe that most of us, when our hearts are relatively open, are legit having awakening experiences all the time. Anytime we're in the moment, anytime we're in a state of grace or gratitude or bliss, right? It's just that the trauma, the cellular trauma that we all carry from our ancestry is to me anyway part of a generational shift. So deeper alchemical healing, our ability to like rewire our brains basically to expand our perspective so that we're no longer perceiving in separation. And to me, that perspective shift happens via the feeling space, because the alchemical healing and the deeper sense of self through our sentience is ultimately what helps us to reconfigure the neural pathways of our brain. And to me, that reconfiguring or that transformation has a lot to do with um, a separation consciousness to a unified consciousness. So yeah, basically accepting that we're all the creators here. And I mean, people, I think, we get muddled or kind of a bit like, how do you create this reality? Like, we're all in this, like, you're not the only. And I feel, again, that's that discernment piece of it's more to do with like our inherent divine choosing to be here to have an experience. I'm not claiming to be the almighty creator of every single person's experience and all the plans and da da da. But I recognize that every single one of us is an inherent divine spark of the creation energy itself. We are all made up of all of it. We're all made up of the entire universe, right? We're all made up of the stardust that makes up these universes and galaxies. And we are also made up of the infinite space that is the infinite, eternal, never-ending container of the flow of life. So like we are that. And then what the point of sort of raising ourselves up is the fact that we get to choose, right? I was speaking to somebody yesterday about that, or whenever, a couple of days ago. And that was something I remember coming across a video. I think it was like a Teal Swan video or something. And I quite liked her definition of like what is Christ consciousness? I think that might have been the question. And she's just like, Christ consciousness is just being able to choose. You should think about like, and know thyself, to thine own self to be true. The truth shall set you free. So holla shazam. If you recognize that you are the only chooser, it's like, how, wait a minute, I get to choose how I perceive this situation. In that moment, the choice point is the Christ, right? The choice point is like, am I going to choose the highest, most loving, most benevolent, most compassionate perspective? Like, the teachings, are kind of telling us is the good thing to do. And as an empath, that's the point. That's why empaths resonate with one another, because like straight up legit, from a very young age, when I lied, it felt like shit for me. I remember the reason I'm vegan. From a very young age, I was maybe 4, I vividly remember it. I was lying in a bunk bed in one of the family caravans on holiday, and I watched this little insect walk across the ceiling, and my finger just went and poked it. Of course, it died, and I was devastated. As soon as I worked out, again, I'm like maybe 8 years old, working out, that wait a minute, the meatloaf is the cow, but I love the cow. And I couldn't do it, right? I couldn't face I couldn't feel the pain of the creatures being slaughtered and then also deny the pain that I felt. I had to honor that pain and make a change. I'm hearing that. What about the love? Isn't that a song, Micah J? Anyway, I wish I could sing like him, but I can't. Way to make a change. You know what I mean, guys. Ba-da-boo. Anyway, like, I'm driving y'all lovers away. Hey, Jennifer Spring, hello. I have a question. Is there an unborn soul boy that should have been born with a former D? Interesting. I don't know, my darling. It's interesting, these questions that we have when they rise up within us. This is something that I do touch on certainly in my readings and in this channel, and I sort of jest about it, but it's legit. It's intuition reigns supreme. Our intuition is an incredible capacity, and the biggest, I would say, offering of why I always want people to listen to their intuition is that the times that I got myself into some really dangerous situations, and the times that I didn't listen to my own self and tried to please other people or listen to other people, I ended up yeah, being in some pretty dire situations. And so, as somebody who, like, puts themselves out there, I would n I personally, I wanna always remind people that, like, I don't know, you know. And the best healers in my personal life that I've worked with over the years are the ones who help me trust my intuition. They didn't claim to heal me, although they would certainly be the ones holding space and helping me dive into my own healing, right? But they didn't claim to be the healer. They didn't claim to like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like people that claim to know about your life, I would just be like, oh, okay, or like telling you what to do, and especially if there's like claims around money, abundance, and such things, I'd be really mindful. And that I'm saying that I'm touching on that subject, and then I want to kind of skip into that a bit about the global paradigm shift and like kind of like the rising collective awareness and like the suffering on the planet, and then the flip around of more and more people making positive changes based on the suffering that they see, because the quantum unified field to me personally is like undeniable now. And the more and more and more people that are endeavoring their healing and their transformation, the more and more and more we go and we do. And the kind of so-called control forces, which are really just, groups of people who've lost their way, and are deluded by the illusion and trying to keep hold of the illusion of power that they have in that old world. And that's something that is a really simple way of understanding the entirety of all the changes we're going through, is like the global paradigm shift, from where I'm coming from, simply means straight up like perceiving through the lens of separation, like we're all separate and nothing's connected, and we're just these weird human meat suits on this planet, traveling through infinite space, versus intentional, purposeful, and meaningful in, and I think I said that right, but like intentional consciousness that I believe every single one of us is. We're eternal. We're infinite sparks of divine stardust. It's just that when we're not connected to it, when we're not feeling it, and we're like essentially traumatizing our bodies so that we just follow the program and do what you're told, because if you don't do what you're told, all your trauma is going to come to the surface, and that's going to ostracize you even more, that's going to shame you even more, that's going to make you whatever, lose your job or lose your whatever, right? It's just, and that's a big part of, I would say, spiritual transformation and spiritual awakening or progress. It's from the great Yoda of, I think it goes, and I'm pretty sure I quoted this in my book, but um, you must learn to let go of everything you fear to lose. And and here I can only speak for myself, and yet recognize that if I am propagating and teaching, like we create what we believe, right? And as I'm saying that from that book, and then I'm like, oh God, I published that 4 or 5 years ago, and uh, what descended on my life was legit losing everything I might have feared to lose. Having my mother be deported and taken away, having the man that I loved moved, found someone else. The person I was living with was actually spying on me. And so all of these things, all these so-called safety nets, my car was repossessed because I was having financial collapse. And this is just a couple of years ago, holla. So, and that was me after I set off on the online entrepreneurial, after I'd published the book. As I was publishing all the courses, it was like, yeah, keep working on your divine mish, but also bear in mind everything that's unnecessary is going to be taken away, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I'm not saying my mom's unnecessary. I'm saying like by the time she was deported, it was like the work we were doing together, that was complete. And then she was taken back to Canada. By the way, that's all sorted now. She's been recently granted citizenship, I'll have you know. We were sort of having a bit of a jest of like being able to find, it's like have you ever seen the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts? And there's a scene when she goes in dressed as her her prostitute self, and she goes in, and that, bearing in mind she's already dating the Richard Gere character, so she has cash. She goes into a shop, and the shop girls are incredibly rude to her. Skip ahead to her transformation into a classy, wealthy woman, going back to the shop, and the shop girls are obviously really nice to her, and she's like, oh, you remember me? Remember when you wouldn't serve me when I looked like a prostitute? Big mistake. Big. Like, it's that sense of like, it's not about putting people down, but it is about like being able to stand in truth and call people out for their fucking shit. And that's that kind of perfect example of people with an attitude. If we go around thinking that we're better than other people, and straight up, personally, in my own journey, like, you don't know it until you're fucking in it. But like, if you're being driven by the ego, your soul will shine light for you. And then by that, I mean, you will hit some hard times in the coming years. Like, the more we are attached to material consumption, especially blind consumption, the more we're attached to even those weird, the MLM and the toxic positivity and the like, um that was something especially when I was going through financial collapse. You can imagine the like the like almost the rage or the irritability or the whatever when people will be like, "Do you want to make money online?" And then I'm like, "I've been practicing and trying for the best part of 10 years." Like I just don't want to have to manipulate people. I don't want to have a sales funnel. I don't want to do what the online marketing gurus are telling me because it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel in my integrity, right? And yet, all these years, 2 years later, I can honestly tell you I am grateful. I am thankful. And never in my life am I going to want to make people feel less than for not having money in the bank. And truly, truly, I believe that this global paradigm shift that we're in, more and more and more people, because the class division is continuing to rip itself apart, because we're in a global crisis. The wealthy are wanting to buy up the properties and make sure that like they've got their stuff and they've got everything they need. Meanwhile, the poor are just like, like but there again, that is part of the beauty is that what will the poor do? The poor will have to congregate, right? And the poor will have to rise themselves and support one another and rise themselves up. And I just sort of imagine the little like it's like the idea of like the people that live in their gated communities. Okay, like your gates are gonna protect you. And here's the thing, I'm not trying to paint a picture of war and fear. Like I wonder how we could sort an issue like this out. I know. Why don't the people hoarding all the wealth share it? Oh my god. Yeah, but what about the interest? It's like, yeah, but um that interest is fake. It's not real. The interest is actually based on debt and it's based on manipulating people. That's why, the whole paradigm is shifting. And this shift isn't something happening outside of ourselves. The paradigm shift is something very divine, quantum, cosmic, and it's happening within us. I think that's the beauty and the sort of the trump of it all. Like how we win no matter what is that like this is just an evolutionary expansive thing. The intuition reigns supreme, the infinite intelligence within us. We know it all already, right? And then it's just to me like if you're gonna stay in that old, if you're gonna stay in separation, more and more people evolving into unity will recognize, and then you'll be like, it's like all flipped and reversed upside down. Like a lot of people that resonate with me also have a very similar kind of life path energetically of always feeling really alien or feeling like ostracized or feeling like all of this idealistic compassionate love stuff is just or you're unrealistic. Get with the real world, like that kind of commenting, or like when I would talk about the planets with people, intelligent they would just be like, or having quasi political conversations and me talking about love and people like Molly, and so I often got ridiculed or like ostracized, and a lot of people in this community resonate with that. And yeah, what I recognize is flip that, turn that around upside down, and then suddenly people are like, "Oh wait, what did you say about that thing again?" It's like, yeah, I'm not talking razzmatazz. Like, sorry that my presence makes you feel uncomfortable about what's going on, but there's more to this existence. And like, truly, truly, the higher intelligent mind comes through feeling, sensing, and being present in the physical vessel that we embody. It's like the entireness of the being is the sentience connected to the brain function, which keeps this regenerative field going. And that is something, it's true to me. I'm like, we are the regenesis. We are the truth. We are the light. It's not, it's not something outside. And each and every one of these planets is a unified being in and of itself. So why wouldn't we have reverence for the planet that we're existing on? Why on earth would we think it's a smart idea to destroy her or to rape her resources for money? It's like, but we live what, you know. Anywho, my love is so hello. I love you. Oh, hi, I love you too. And I was just saying, but I love me too. You just gotta have to fiercely practice the self love vibratory. You know what I mean? My love. So, just so you guys know, if you're new here, I do often, well, actually, substantially, I do tarot. For many years, I did these live shares. I don't go live as much anymore because I focus on the live share crew. The live share crew pay I think anywhere from £5 to £11 a month to be part of the live share crew, and that just means that the live share crew we get little. I send notifications basically when I'm coming live, and we can like chat and share and do all that kind of stuff. Sometimes when I come live and I title a video like live chat and intuitive reading, and we're going live and I'm not doing a specific kind of zodiac read, then yeah, sometimes I will kind of take questions and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm just chatting, basically my Latoya, I don't have my cards with me. And so sometimes when I'm doing shares like this, I am specifically like channeling information. I say noodling. It's like I'm kind of like just wanting to like talk, basically just wanting to share. And so I'm not here with the intent and purpose of pulling cards and sharing messages via the cards. Just so you know, so if you catch a live where I say on it like in intuitive reading, then absolutely, I just don't want you to feel like I've ignored, like, could I have a reading? No. But maybe another time. And of um, I sometimes when people ask, I'll just remind people that you can book one. And there's readings on my site for as little as £5, bearing in mind technically it's a 5-minute reading, but I find it hard to keep them that short. So my 5-minute readings are often closer or upwards to 10-minute readings are upward to 20-minute readings are blah blah blah. You get the gist. In fairness, like once I get to 30 and 40-minute reads, they're less. And then also just know that when you do book a reading, we don't do a live call. I pre-record and then send the video unless you book a full hour of time and we arrange a kind of chit chat, right? Hello, 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 hello. Hey Dustin, how are you? Yeah, and then I'm not, I could never. I daren't interpret your dream, darling. The Gunda muffin, great handle. I would say it's all in you, sugar plum. Um, and but there again, I'm somebody who's quite self-directed. I'm independent. I'm super duper intuitive. All that kind of stuff. So it's like, also I'm like I wouldn't, um, especially at this point. Maybe early on, there was a time back in the Jizzy when I might have listened to people, but now, I mean, I do listen to people, but um, certainly in these realms, in these spiritual, esoteric kind of placements, I can remember somebody like saying something to me. This is going back to 2011 or 2012. This person was actually, I believe, a self-professed um, psychic or astrologer, perhaps. And I can remember them saying something to me which hit me hard, and it not in a good way. Okay, so they said just this one little thing of, "Oh, and you did da 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 da." I didn't ask for his advice. I didn't ask for any kind of astrological interpretation. This was somebody who lived. I was renting a room in a house, and this person was renting like an annex. So we would cross by from time to time, and he just went in on me and said this stuff. And it was the first time that I've so viscerally experienced what people call like psychic attack. And I just what felt so crap, like, and things he said were just kind of going over my mind. And I just felt like I had this like shadow all over me. And I just remember crying and crying and crying and crying, and like to the point of I couldn't stop. So then I'm like, what, like, da da da. And I come across somehow some fucking divine love. I end up finding like psychic attack, and make sure, when you're opening different like spiritual gates, that you don't let certain entities just come in and muddle up your frequencies, right? And like learning that not everybody has the intentions of love. And that's part of like what people call spiritual false light. Love and light, sisters. Like, we can call each other what we like. Brothers and sisters. We can all be light workers as such, but we're not that, like, as in the light within us can only really shine as bright as the deepest dark. I don't know what I'm saying there, but anyway. It sort of makes sense in my mind, like denying my own shit, basically. We know this, like, and it really is to do with what we're manifesting. But people can come along and say things, and especially when we're in more of the false light, like most of my life, just like, I'm just gonna be a good person. If I'm just the best person in the world, if I'm just super nice to everyone, if I just give and give and give and give and give, then I'll make the world a better place, until you end up homeless and getting completely and then you're going to question whether or not that's actually accurate, right? And lo and behold, as an adult woman, all that people pleasing ends up damn near destroying me, right? And I mean, gosh, it was probably about 8 9 years ago that I dove into deeper healing to address the people pleasing. This shit is deep, and even to that point of realizing that once you truly transform your own people pleasing patterns, you can't even really associate with people who people please bad. Like, realizing, especially if I catch weird feels and then I notice, oh, that's why, because they're a people pleaser. So whatever I experience from them isn't their authenticity, it's just them pleasing me. And me thinking I'm going to get any of my needs met from that person is ridiculous. Because why? Because a people pleaser is too busy pleasing everybody else. And that's part of how I know I really ended up losing all the things that I'm now working diligently to rebuild, is that part of the shadow aspect of the ego that people pleases is the ego that is either inferior or superior. So there's a part of us, if we're still people pleasing, that's seeking validation. And I'm not putting it down, because the part of us that seeks validation is the wounded child within us. That's why we need compassion for ourselves. We're not trying to be narcissistic dickheads. We're trying to survive in a very broken and traumatized world. And unfortunately, it would appear that the effect what ends up being projected outward into our human relationships is what we call avoidant personality disorder or narcissism, because people are so disconnected. And not only that, but we're trying to survive. Survival mode is the fight, flight, reptilian brain function. So how can we, and I've been talking this way and sharing this way and but I am also owning in the here and now. Holy shit, I'm healing from a lifelong of being in survival mode with a big old open heart, but also with duality, right? And like being in that survival mode is a lower base tone of our human evolutionary cycle. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. It just is what it is. It's reactive and it's afraid. How did we get here? God knows. But we're here. And what we recognize is our survival, our reptilian brain function is killing us rather than helping us survive. And so we better evolve. We better unify our mental capacity. And that just means rewiring our brain so that it's in unison, in coherence with the heart. Imagine that. And I couldn't tell you, I don't know how we ended up being so disconnected or blah, 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 blah. It is what it is. But let's be honest, these old things don't particularly help us stay connected, do they? No. I'm saying twin flame reunion. I'm hearing dreams can come true. What? So you found, it's like you've got your divine counterpart. Hello, Shazam. Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm still single and not mingling. I don't even give a razzmatazz anymore. But I'm kind of cool like with it all. Also, like my brain is really wrapping around the whole like our culture is like obsessed with love, and I like so am I. Oh, to love. I'm like, come on, guys, let's just love each other. Um, and yet I am, and at this point I'm like, I also have really had to own and address that it's not appropriate for me to be in a relationship because I haven't quite, in my ultimate manifest Christhood, I've not even manifest me having my own home because I didn't even fucking realize how deeply my trauma went around how much I really don't belong here. So the last few years of patterns of me being in the online entrepreneurial landscape and publishing a book and doing all this stuff, all of it, majority, was me running a run from family because deep, deep down, I don't deserve love. So I better fucking make a success of myself. I better fucking make some money. I better da 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 because my family doesn't fucking love me. No man loves me. No da da da. I'm a shitty woman who just cries all the time. So I better fucking be successful in the world, right? Until my divine path just lands me on my knees, broken again and again and again until I finally just go, I'm enough. Ah, see, I'm still working through it. Like, and it's just simple, you guys. Like, for me personally, it's just the fact of like, I'm enough to be here. I'm enough to belong here. I'm enough to have my own home, where I'm not having to like make someone else's home good for them. And, like, that's something just right now I'm processing and dealing with is, like, people that have their families here and people that, like, and this is probably, like, coming across quite victim-y, don't get me wrong, like, I love myself and I'm working on it, and I'm extraordinarily privileged, and I don't wanna complain at all, but I'm at a point in my life where there are people around me, and they're in their home, and they just have this stuff, and they kinda look at me funny, and they're like, "Well, home is where the heart is," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's easy when you've had that always." And yeah, you all had that roof over your head and you had your parents down the road and you had and you kind of just take for granted. You think I'm living some exciting happy life, but actually like I'm fighting for my life. I'm yeah, fighting for survival and coming up again and again and again from people that pretty much just want to take from me, you know? They just wanna take, and then when I'm pleasing, people pleasing, and I realize that they're just taking from me or stealing from me or lying to me or not actually committed to me at all, it's fucking traumatizing. So, like, the last few years, I just sort of re-traumatized myself over and over again until I realized I was running away from childhood wounds that were so fucking painful. No wonder we run away from our wounds, I get it. Because when we're in the process of the wounds, it's shit. Especially in a world that still doesn't really understand emotional healing. For me, the more recent, super painful, and I think this applies to a lot of children, but like just being a baby, crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and having nobody come. That's, I think, a collective trauma that certainly most of our parents would have, because that was even propagated. Like, just let the baby cry. And like most babies, when they cry, it's because they need love. And that's something I'm owning, and at the same time, I'm not compromising. I'm not fucking compromising when it comes to loving relationship, but like in a very, very pure sense, most of us as beings just need love and affection, not control, not possessiveness, just like genuine love and affection, caring, loving, Like, it's okay to be who we are. It's okay to feel. It's okay to cry, It's okay to get angry sometimes, especially if you're hurt. Thank you. It's so funny, right? Because it's like sharing and being vulnerable, and you've and I'm so appreciative for you guys, and how you show up here and how you share. And yet, I think as I've still shared and shared, I realize that definitely for me, part of the program of like being raised by a single mom is just like, it's fine, I'll do it myself. Especially because, like, if you're not worthy to be here and you're just people pleasing and giving, people get used to just taking, and they just think that's the norm. And then when you try to stand up for themselves, they think you're being rude, or like, even just super recently, somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to hang out?" I was like, "No, I think I'm good." And they were just like, "Fuck you! Like, your intuition must be like, clearly your intuition is fucked." And I was just like, and actually deeper, I was like, "Well, no, I would say intuition is pretty fucking spot on, actually, because someone that reacts like just when you just say no, like, no, thank you, I don't want to do that, and then they get mad at you and make you out to be a horrible human. You're like, oh, you know, and yet, as a longtime people pleaser, saying no is a huge thing. At the same time, at the same time, the discernment piece for me is that just loneliness generally, and after so many years of working out all of these underlying abuse patterns and trying to run away and not having people that you thought had your back and not, and then so you're still processing and like healing all that, and then good people might start to come in, but you're just like, like, I'm just in this really funny space of like, it's almost like anyone being nice. I'm just like, leave me alone. You're just gonna fucking hurt me. And like recently, someone I completely fell in love with, just it's just games to them, It's just like, I do love you, and I'm like, yeah, but I think if you love someone, you'd want to hang out with them. Not just say that and hang out with all the other people in your life, or be excluded, or oh, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm in that space, and I'm taking some time out, really, and I really, really appreciate how you guys hold space for me when I come live like this, because I recognize the value and the importance of it. And it is never ever my intention to make people feel bad about themselves. That's pretty much my only intention, is the opposite of that, is that since I was a little kid, I've just wanted to help people, make them feel better about themselves. And yet I'm realizing there's some deeper stuff in me that need addressing, because I can only support people as well as I can support myself. And I have not managed to support myself very well. Marie Jolie, Molly Jane. My name, MJ, stands for Molly Jane or Mary Jane. I remember that. I think there was a movie called Half Baked, and they mixed the name Mary Jane with marijuana, and Molly actually is another. It's like a Celtic name for Mary, so Mary Jane. And if you guys don't know, I quite like cannabis. I'm a bit of a stoner, and I it's like I feel like my pseudonym is marijuana. I'm like, it's very fitting, isn't it? Oh, thank you guys so much. Ugh. You know, the vibratory. It's like even in this moment, like the simultaneity of all of the shame and the embarrassment and the but increasingly thanks to you guys, like this is safe. And this is why I'm like so many people I don't think they can even fucking understand is like my tribe, like some of the people I feel most connected to. And don't get me wrong, I have an inner circle. I have a very small group of people that have been by my side and stuck by me, you know. My photographer, my accountant, obviously my mother. Like there have been people that have really, really been there, and they're like family to me, obviously, right? But the people here too are like family to me. And some of my inner circle are now people that I met via this platform, including Roots. Do you know Roots, you guys? She has her own channel. It's an amazing, she chats. Hala! Hala, NDP. You know, like proper soul family. Scott Setzel, like basically people just showed up and genuinely became my lifelines, like genuinely became the financial support I needed to to put food on my table. Like remember one internet friend ended up being case study for the vegan course, but when I was in Bristol, I was like the day that rent was due, and I'm like 250 quid short, and I'm like, dude, and he was bottoming out too. He didn't have any money coming in, but guess what? He gave me what he had, and I managed to cover rent, you know? Same like Scott. There's so many people in the live share crew. Like this live share crew are not a bunch of millionaire, billionaire people. They're hardworking, I guess you could say, whatever, or financially ordinary, right? And yet they're the most generous people. Heck, they're as generous as me. and and that's to me the how people have showed up for the crew in this community is to me like the new way of how we transform the economy. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how generous you are. None of us have money, but guess what? When there's somebody in the crew whose car breaks down and needs 50 quid, there's funds there. Because the live share crew are people who feel me. You know, they get it. And it requires a fair amount of spiritual detachment and awareness to even come to that point of grace where you're not blinded by materiality. I mean, god dang, those were early insights to me that I observed. I'm like, wait a minute, just because you drive a Mustang doesn't make you better than that kid over there that drives a little banger, you know? Like, you could see the injustice right in front of your face, and you could feel it in your heart. I remember when I was 13 years old and I was in a kind of new, headed toward high school. I was in a new dance company. I was suddenly hanging with even richer kids that were, not just doctors' kids, but like citywide entrepreneur kids' parents, where their parents own half the city. And I'm like, Shazam, and then my family, we're going through more and more financial crises and conflict, and then I'm suddenly hanging out with like the crew. Anywho, I'll never forget the situation. So I'm like 12 or 13 years old, and I'm playing with one of these said kids whose parents owned loads of businesses, like mega, mega wealthy. Plus, my older sister often would imprint on me that we are like shameful and disgusting, our family, because we're poor comparatively. But then I was like, yeah, but we're still richer than, you know what I mean? How it gets really fucking confusing in a classist world. So, anywho, I'm playing out with my new super rich friend who clearly is way better than me because our family plus like my parents were divorced, so that was also not cool. We were shamed for it, but um so we were playing on the train tracks. Some of you might know the story. We're playing on the train tracks and a train is approaching. And my friend at the time, she was staying on the tracks and I could feel the train approaching and the horn starts going, right? And for me, I'm not doing it for myself because I'm worried about getting hit by the train. I got off the tracks because I was concerned for the train driver. Because could you imagine being a train driver seeing two young girls playing on the track? Ah, get the fuck out of the way, girls. And she didn't, though. Let's keep playing. And I was like, hey, come on, get off. Because I'm hearing the train honking going, you're stressing him out. Don't do that. It's mean. It's rude for the driver. Right? That was where I was coming from at that age. Like, don't do that. That's possibly upsetting the dude driving that big train. So, like, last minute, she jumps off the track and she just looks at me and smiles. 13 years old, right? Whatever. It's not like I'm ever going to be a train driver. So these are the little things that I remember about growing up as an empath. And even then, at the tender age of 12, I'm thinking, so just because I'm not intending to ever be homeless doesn't mean I'm going to be fucking rude to homeless people. Just because I'm not going to intend, or for me, it's probably not likely that I'm going to end up being, someone who takes the bins from my streets. It doesn't mean I'm going to be fucking rude to them. So her relationship to people that are in positions in society that she'll never have to do that. I'll never have to be that. So who cares? And that's that classic vibrational stronghold of entitlement through privilege. So karma blind, holla Shazam. And then that makes me and there is where we start to pull on the little threads of this so-called economy that we live in. And once we, the people, continue to expand our heart and deal with our karma, holla Shazam, that will be that behavior will continue to break down for people. This is what's becoming, and like there's these waves happening, and yet for most of us, it's like been there, done that. But holla Shazam, good for you for owning your fucking shitty privilege. And I'm not like, now I'm just kind of reeling and ranting, right? Because the majority of us here watching YouTube, we're privileged. Sorry to say. You might not be as privileged as the kids whose parents owned fucking Mackie D's or whatever, but if you're just straight up, like most of us have white skin, we're privileged. We have fucking advantages in this world. It's gross, but like that's the way it is. So if we deny, it's like a white dude denying feminism or a white woman denying rape, like we can't, it's not up to us to judge other people's pain and suffering. It's up to us to deal with our own and hold space for everybody else. And recognize that we live in a really divisive, oppressive system. And by system, I mean the world that we're all co-creating together with our TVs and our smartphones and our TV news propaganda bullshit. Like, we're all responsible. So, like, pretending that we're separate from the poor people in fucking Africa is a privilege that we can't afford to continue to hold on to. We're one with these people, And it's not like we're there to modern Western civilization. Let's go to the third world. No. Actually, let's go and co-create and learn from the people in the so-called third world, whatever the fuck that means. Other than, you don't live how we live. We should sit you down and tell you how to live like the queen. Except that's not what's going on. We're not asking you to live like the queen. No, no, that's Queenie's job. We're just going to treat you and indoctrinate you to serve the crown. Holla Shazam, you guys. What a world. Anywho, it's been fun. Thanks. I've laughed. I've cried. I've seen some of my best friends, like straight up my BFFs. You guys, you feel me? You're online. What? Yes, yes, you are. Anywho, you guys, thanks for being here. Most of you I know are in the United States, so wishing you well and wishing you sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world in the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. Aren't we? I don't know. I'm kind of over the dream stuff now. Like, make your dreams come true, which mostly in that old world is talking about how much money can you make. Dreams. And then, I mean, I love my life. And to me, the dream is just like, at this point, I have my own home and my own kitchen, so I can like cook for myself and have a magic day. JK, kind of on a chia. I'm gonna stop talking now. Love you guys loads. NDP, NDP, Shikikilipa, Dustin, Brad. Dusty. Ooh, there's another butterfly. I keep seeing butterflies and or butterfly symbology keeps rising up. Oh, mega love for all of you. Thanks again for being here. Your comments, your likes, your subscribes, all of it is mega, mega appreciated. I will endeavor to go live again, and I'll be getting the readings. Love you. Bye. See you soon, you guys.